I didn't think much of the rules when I first saw them. That was probably my first mistake. Rules are normal at a job like mine. Every workplace has them. Don't prop open the freezer. Don't take cash from the drawer for change unless you write it down. Don't let truckers sleep in the lot for more than 4 hours unless the weather is bad. Don't give out the office phone number. Don't let tourists feed the ravens. That kind of thing. So when Earl slid a folded sheet of paper across the counter and told me to memorize it before my first overnight shift, I thought he was just being old and dramatic. He had that kind of face. Weathered, sunken around the eyes, skin rough from wind and smoke and whatever else Montana does to men who spend too much time outside. He looked like he had been born wearing a seed cap and a flannel jacket. He tapped the paper twice with one finger. "Read it," he said. "Don't be clever about it." I almost laughed, because I thought he was joking. He wasn't. I still have that paper. It's folded in my wallet right now. The creases are soft from being opened too many times, and there's coffee dried into one corner from a night I don't like thinking about. The ink has started to smear where my thumb always rests. I don't need it anymore. I know the rules by heart. I work nights at Clearwater Rest, a roadside stop in western Montana, about 40 miles from the nearest real town and a little under an hour from the south entrance road into the park. People call it a rest stop, but that makes it sound cleaner and more official than it is. It's a low concrete building with 2 public bathrooms, a vending alcove, a little diner counter that hasn't served hot food since 2008, and a glassed-in office where the attendant sits. There are 12 parking bays out front, 3 truck spaces along the back edge, and an old information board with faded trail maps under cracked plastic. There used to be gas pumps, years ago, before the tanks failed inspection. The pump islands are still out there. The handles are locked in place. The price sign is blank. Most people assume the place is closed until they see the vending machines glowing in the window and the blue restroom sign buzzing over the doors. At night, the building hums. That's the best way I can describe it. The soda machines hum. The fluorescent lights hum. The old security monitors hum. The ice freezer hums even though there hasn't been ice in it for months. In winter, the heater ticks and knocks in the walls. In summer, moths collect in the corners of the window frames and throw tiny shadows across the counter. It isn't scary at first. It's boring. Most of the job is boring. I clean toilets. I mop the lobby. I refill toilet paper. I wipe down the coffee machine even though nobody trusts it. I empty trash cans full of fast food wrappers and gas station burrito sleeves from places 50 miles away. I restock the vending machines from boxes in the storage room. I log vehicle counts for the state contractor that owns the building but never sends anyone to check if we're telling the truth. That's why the job was easy to get. Nobody wanted it. The pay was bad, but it was steady. I was 31 when I started, and steady mattered to me more than pride did. I'd lost my warehouse job in Missoula that spring. My rent had gone up. My truck needed a transmission. My father had died the year before and left me a house that was worth less than what was owed on it. I wasn't sleeping much anyway, so nights didn't scare me. Not then. A friend of mine, Cody, told me about the opening. He had done maintenance work for the county and knew Earl from plowing contracts. "It's weird," Cody said when he gave me the number. "But not hard weird. Just lonely weird." That sounded fine. Lonely was something I understood. Earl interviewed me at 9 in the morning on a Tuesday, sitting behind the counter with a cup of black coffee and a clipboard. He asked if I had a record. He asked if I could stay awake without drinking or pills. He asked if I had any problem cleaning up after strangers. Then he asked if I was the kind of man who needed to understand every instruction before following it. I told him no, because that sounded like the answer he wanted. He watched me for a while after that. Then he said, "Good. Night shift starts Thursday." There were only 3 employees at Clearwater Rest when I came on. Earl managed the place and worked days when he felt like it. He said he was semi-retired, but I don't know from what. Some days he said he had worked highway maintenance. Other days he said he'd been with the Park Service. Once he said he used to run tow trucks up near Browning, then changed the subject before I could ask more. Marla worked the morning shift. She was in her 50s, quiet, and had a habit of calling every man Han, in a flat voice that made it clear she did not mean it kindly. Then there was me. Midnight to 8. 5 nights a week. Sometimes 6, if Marla had church things or Earl claimed his knees were bad. My first 2 nights were normal. Truckers came in for the bathroom and left without looking at me. A family from Idaho bought 6 bags of chips and asked if the park road was open. A man in a rental car stared at the dead gas pumps for almost a full minute before coming inside and asking if we had fuel. I told him no. He looked personally offended, like I had broken the pumps myself. At 3:30 a.m. on the second night, a snowplow driver came in even though it was July. He bought black coffee, said nothing, and left $1 in the tip jar. Earl told me later he was from the county, and sometimes drove empty routes when he couldn't sleep. That was the kind of oddness I expected. Remote places collect strange people. By my 3rd night, I thought I had the job figured out. Then Earl gave me the rules. He came in at 11:40 p.m., which was unusual. He was supposed to be gone by 6. I was behind the counter counting the drawer while Marla shrugged into her coat. Earl stood just inside the employee door with his cap pulled low and waited until Marla left. The bell over the door jingled behind her. Her headlights washed across the front windows. Then she was gone, and the lot outside became dark again. Earl locked the public door, checked it twice, and turned to me. "You comfortable here yet?" he asked. "Getting there. That's when people get careless." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just smiled a little. He didn't smile back. He took a folded paper from his shirt pocket and laid it on the counter. "Night rules," he said. I looked at it, then at him. "I thought the handbook was in the drawer." "That's for inspections." He pushed the paper closer. "This is for you." I unfolded it. The writing was blocky and neat, written in black pen. At the top it said, "Clearwater Rest Night Shift. Vehicle Rules." Under that, there were 8 numbered lines. 1. Keep the lobby doors locked from 12:45 a.m. until 4:10 a.m. Use the service drawer only. 2. If a car enters the lot with no visible driver, do not say out loud that it is empty. Log it as unattended, and nothing else. 3. If an unattended car parks in Bay 6, turn off the open sign and do not look into the mirror above the counter until the car leaves. 4. If the radio calls you by your full name, or says it is Highway Patrol asking about a specific vehicle, answer only. Clearwater Rest, mile 184, office occupied. Then stop speaking. 5. If a passenger gets out before a driver does, refuse service once and step back from the glass. 6. If headlights flash 3 times, turn off all interior lights for 1 full minute. Keep your eyes on the floor. 7. Never walk between 2 vehicles with engines running, even if both appear empty. 8. At sunrise, count the cars in the lot from inside. If the number on the cameras does not match the number through the window, call Earl. Do not unlock the doors until he arrives. I read them once. Then I read them again. I waited for Earl to explain. He didn't. Is this a joke? I asked. No. What does unattended car mean? It means what it says. A car with no driver? He looked at me. I remember that look very clearly now. It wasn't anger. It wasn't fear exactly. It was more like disappointment, as if I had already done something wrong, and he had been hoping I wouldn't. Don't use that word when you're here at night, he said. What word? He tapped Rule 2. Empty. I looked back at the paper and tried to laugh it off. Earl, cars don't drive themselves. Most don't. He said it like that was a normal thing to say. I set the paper down. What happens if I break one? He took his time answering. Depends which one. That should have been enough for me to quit. I know that now. But at the time, I was thinking about rent, and truck repairs, and the way the job market looked when you didn't have a degree and your last employer had closed without warning. I was thinking Earl was old, and lonely, and maybe a little superstitious from spending too many nights out here. So I folded the paper and put it in my back pocket. Okay, I said. He nodded. Then he took a key from his ring and placed it beside the register. It was small and brass, with red tape wrapped around the top. That opens the breaker box, he said. For Rule 6. Don't use the wall switch. Kill the whole lobby panel. That seems unsafe. It is. I waited for him to say more. He didn't. At midnight, Earl left. I watched his old Bronco pull out of the lot and turn east, taillights shrinking into the dark. After that, I was alone. For a while, nothing happened. I cleaned the men's room. I restocked the peanut butter crackers. I wrote down the vending machine totals and checked the drawer twice because I still didn't trust myself with closing math. At 12:45, I locked the lobby doors. That was already something we were supposed to do, more or less. Earl said the contractor required overnight attendants to keep the doors locked for safety, but Marla had told me nobody bothered unless someone looked sketchy. I bothered. The rules were ridiculous, but locking doors at night in the middle of nowhere made sense. At 1:10, a logging truck pulled into the back lot. The driver came to the glass, knocked once, and asked through the service drawer if the bathrooms were open. I told him no, not until 4:10. He swore under his breath, walked around the side of the building, and relieved himself behind the old ice machine. I pretended not to see. At 1:36, the radio crackled. The radio sat on a shelf above the desk, next to the camera monitors. It was an old base unit, the kind with a hand mic and a coiled cord. Earl said it picked up county road crews, highway patrol, plows, and sometimes park channels when the weather was right. Mostly it hissed. That night, it clicked twice, then a man's voice said, "Clearwater Rest, you awake?" I picked up the mic. "Clearwater Rest," I said. "Go ahead. Coffee still tastes like brake fluid?" I recognized the voice. It was the snowplow driver from the night before, the one who had come in during July. "Worse," I said. He laughed once and signed off. That calmed me down for some reason. A normal voice on the radio made the building feel less cut off. At 2:05, the first car came in. I almost didn't notice it. The lot out front was mostly dark past the wash of the overhang lights. The cameras were black and white, grainy, and delayed by about half a second. I had camera 1 on the front entrance, camera 2 on the bays, camera 3 on the truck lot, and camera 4 on the back hallway. A pair of headlights appeared on camera 1, turning in from the highway. The car moved slowly. Too slowly, I thought. It was an old sedan, maybe a Buick or Mercury, pale in color. Long hood. Square rear. The kind of car I associated with grandparents and estate sales. It rolled past the entrance sign and into the lot without turning its headlights down. I glanced out the front window. The glare made it hard to see through the windshield. The car stopped in Bay 3. The engine kept running. I waited for the driver to get out. No one did. I looked at camera 2. The sedan sat there, exhaust drifting behind it in a thin gray cloud, even though the night was warm. The headlights stayed on. The windshield showed nothing but reflection. I leaned closer to the monitor. "Come on," I muttered. I almost said something else. I almost said, "There's nobody in it." But the rule came back to me before I moved. If a car enters the lot with no visible driver, do not say out loud that it is empty. I felt stupid even thinking about it. Still, I took the logbook from under the counter and opened to the vehicle count page. At 2:06 a.m. I wrote, Bay 3, unattended sedan, pale, engine running. My hand felt awkward writing the word unattended. Like I was using a polite lie. For 5 minutes, nothing happened. The car idled. I stood behind the counter, watching it in the monitor, trying to decide what a reasonable person would do. Maybe the driver had ducked down. Maybe someone was sleeping across the front seat. Maybe the angle was bad. Maybe it was some teenager messing around. I told myself it was just a drunk person. Then the receipt printer beside the register woke up. It made that dry little grinding sound that always startled me in the quiet. A white slip curled out. I stared at it. The register screen was dark. We didn't take orders at night. The diner side was closed. The receipt printer was only used when someone bought vending tokens or county parking passes, which almost nobody did. I tore off the slip. It read, 1 coffee, 1 road map, 1 driver. Total $0. Under that, where a transaction number should have been, it said, Nathaniel Palmer. I don't go by Nathaniel. Not at work. Not with friends. My license says Nathaniel, and my mother uses it when she's mad, but everyone else calls me Nate. I stood there with the receipt in my hand, listening to the sedan idle. Then the radio hissed. I didn't touch it. The hiss went on for a few seconds. Then a voice came through. It was low and male and very clear. Nathaniel Palmer. My fingers tightened around the receipt. The voice said my full name again. Nathaniel James Palmer. It even had my middle name. I looked at the rule sheet on the counter. Rule 4. If the radio calls you by your full name, or says it is Highway Patrol asking about a specific vehicle, answer only. Clearwater Rest, mile 184, office occupied. Then stop speaking. I picked up the mic. My mouth was dry. Clearwater Rest, mile 184, office occupied. I let go of the button. The radio clicked. The voice answered, but it was farther away now. Office occupied, it repeated. Then the sedan's headlights turned off. Not dimmed. Not shut down like someone twisting a key. They went off at once. The engine stopped. The lot became quiet again. I waited. The car sat in Bay 3 for another minute. Then its reverse lights came on. It backed out slowly, turned toward the exit, and rolled onto the highway without headlights. I watched until it disappeared. After that, I didn't move for a long time. The first thing I did was check the cameras. Camera 1 showed the empty entrance road. Camera 2 showed empty bays. Camera 3 showed the logging truck and back. Camera 4 showed the hallway. I rewound the recording. There was no rewinding. That was when I learned the cameras at Clearwater were live only unless Earl put in a tape. There was a VCR under the monitor shelf, but no tape inside. Just a blinking 12 o'clock that had probably been blinking for years. so I had nothing to prove what I'd seen. Except the receipt. I folded it and put it in my wallet with the rules sheet. I didn't call Earl. I didn't call anyone. I told myself there was an explanation, and I just didn't have it yet. Maybe Earl had rigged something to test me. Maybe the receipt printer had a memory error and spit out old data. Maybe the radio picked up some weird skip from another channel. Maybe someone had found my name on the schedule and decided to mess with me. That would have made sense, except for the car leaving without lights. And the way it knew my middle name. At 4:10, I unlocked the lobby doors. At sunrise, I counted the cars. Through the window, I saw one logging truck. On the camera, I saw one logging truck. The numbers matched. I didn't call Earl. When Marla came in at 8, she looked at me and said, "You look like boiled hell." I said I hadn't slept. She grunted and hung up her coat. I waited for her to mention the rules. She didn't. I waited for Earl to come in and ask how it went. He didn't. At 8:12 I left. In the parking lot, I paused at Bay 3. There was nothing there. No tire marks. No oil drip. No sign a car had ever idled there. But on the concrete, right where the driver's door would have been, there was a damp rectangle the size of a doormat. The rest of the lot was dry. I drove home with the radio off. I slept badly that day. When I came back the next night, Earl was waiting. He was sitting in the diner booth nearest the office with a paper cup of coffee in front of him. "You break any?" he asked. I knew what he meant. "No." He looked at me. "Almost?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "The radio used my full name." He nodded once, like I had told him a sink was clogged. "You answered right?" "Yeah." "What else?" I took the receipt from my wallet and handed it to him. He read it. His expression didn't change. "Did you give it anything?" "No." "Did you say there was no driver?" "No." "Did you write empty?" "No." "I wrote unattended." He folded the receipt and gave it back. "Keep doing that." "What is this?" I asked. Earl looked toward the front windows. It was still light out then. Cars passed on the highway in both directions. A couple from Oregon stood by the trail map, arguing about whether they had missed the park turnoff. The soda machine rattled and dropped a can. The place looked normal. That made it worse. Earl said, "It's an old road." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I have." I waited. He rubbed one hand over his jaw. "People get lost out here," he said. "Always have. Weather comes down fast. Roads move. Maps lie. Folks take turns they shouldn't. Most of them come back out somewhere. Some don't. And they drive here?" "I didn't say people." I stared at him. He pushed his coffee away. "Don't make it a ghost story, Nate. That's how people get stupid. It's a workplace problem. Treat it like one. A workplace problem." "Exactly. A car with no driver is a workplace problem? An unattended vehicle is." He said the word carefully. "Unattended." Then he stood up. "You follow the rules, you'll be fine." "Has anyone not been fine?" Earl didn't answer. That was answer enough. The next few nights were quiet. Not normal exactly, but quiet. No driverless cars. No receipts. No full-name calls on the radio. I worked my routine. I mopped. I cleaned. I checked the bathrooms. I locked the doors at 12:45 and unlocked them at 4:10. I logged every vehicle, even the ones that only pulled in long enough for someone to check a map or smoke by the trash cans. The more ordinary the nights were, the easier it became to doubt myself. By the end of that week, I had almost convinced myself the first incident had been some kind of stress hallucination. I had been tired. I had been alone. Earl had primed me with strange rules. The receipt could have been a prank. The radio could have been interference. I didn't tell Cody. I didn't tell my mother. I didn't mention it to Marla. I just kept the rule sheet in my wallet and did the job. The second incident happened 9 nights after the first. It was raining hard. Montana rain at night has a way of making the whole world smaller. The highway vanished past the reach of the lot lights. Water streamed down the front glass and turned the parking bays into smeared reflections. Every passing truck sounded like it was driving through a river. I had 2 vehicles in the lot at 1:30 a.m. A white pickup in Bay 1 with a man sleeping behind the wheel, and a dark Subaru in Bay 8 with a college couple eating from a bag of drive-through food. I remember them clearly because I was making myself log everything. At 1:44, a black minivan turned into the lot. It came in too fast, then braked hard near the old pump island. I looked at camera 2. The rain blurred everything, but I could see a person in the front passenger seat. A woman, I thought. She sat very straight. The driver's seat looked dark. The van rolled forward and parked in Bay 6. As soon as I saw the number painted on the curb, I felt my stomach drop. Rule 3. If an unattended car parks in Bay 6, turn off the open sign and do not look into the mirror above the counter until the car leaves. I looked at the windshield. No visible driver. Only the passenger. She turned her head toward the building. I reached under the counter and flipped off the open sign. The red neon in the window went black. Then I remembered the mirror. It hung above the counter, angled so whoever worked the register could see the lobby doors behind them without turning around. It was an old convex security mirror, scratched and yellowed at the rim. I had never paid attention to it before. Now I suddenly became aware of it above me. I lowered my eyes. The office felt smaller. The rain kept hitting the windows. The minivan's engine ran. I wrote in the log. 1:44, Bay 6, unattended black minivan, passenger visible, rain. I did not look at the mirror. That was harder than it sounds. Once you tell yourself not to look at something, your eyes want it. They try to drift up on their own. Every little movement in the room becomes something you need to check. The woman in the passenger seat got out. I saw it on the monitor. She opened the door slowly, stepped into the rain, and stood beside the van without closing it. She was wearing a tan coat with the hood down. Her hair was wet immediately. She didn't run toward the building. She walked. Not slowly, not fast. Just steadily, like she had all the time she needed. The pickup in Bay 1 started up and left. The Subaru couple followed a minute later, maybe because of the rain, maybe because of her. I wanted them to stay. I wanted witnesses. Instead, their taillights blurred out onto the highway, and then I was alone with the minivan. The woman stopped outside the lobby doors. She tried the handle. It didn't move. She tried again. Then she looked toward the office window. I was behind the glass. The service drawer was set into the wall beside the counter, with a small metal speaker grill above it. It was made for transactions after the lobby locked. She came to the drawer. I stepped toward it, then remembered Rule 5. If a passenger gets out before a driver does, refuse service once and step back from the glass. She leaned close to the speaker. Her face was ordinary. That was the worst part. She looked about 40, maybe tired, maybe cold. No blood. No strange eyes. No old-fashioned clothes. She could have been a school secretary or someone's aunt coming home late from a hospital visit. "Can you open the door?" she asked. Her voice came through the speaker thin and buzzing. Lobby opens at 4:10, I said. My husband is sick. I looked at the monitor. The driver's seat was still dark. I can call someone for you. No, she said quickly. Then she smiled. It was small and polite. Just open the door. I can't. My husband needs the bathroom. I said nothing. The rules said refuse service once and step back. I had already refused. So I stepped back. Her smile went away. She leaned closer to the glass. I can see you, she said. I kept my eyes on the counter. The mirror was above me. I could feel it. That sounds stupid, but I could. I could feel the round dark shape of it over my head, reflecting the lobby behind me, reflecting the front doors, reflecting maybe the woman outside, maybe the office, maybe something else. The woman tapped one fingernail against the glass. Once. Then again. Then again. Sir? She said. I didn't answer. My husband is sick. Tap. Sir? Tap. Please. Tap. On the monitor, the minivan's driver door opened. I stared at it. No one got out. The door just opened into the rain. The woman stopped tapping. She turned her head not toward the van, but toward the dark mirror above my counter. I almost looked up. I really did. Something about the way she turned made me think there was someone behind me. Not outside. Behind me, in the office, standing where no one could be. My eyes lifted halfway. Then the rule came back to me before I moved. Do not look into the mirror above the counter until the car leaves. I looked down hard enough that my neck hurt. The woman laughed once. It was not dramatic. It wasn't a witch laugh or anything like that. It was a normal, quiet laugh. Like I had almost fallen for a simple trick. Then she walked back to the minivan. She got into the passenger seat. The driver's door closed by itself. The van stayed in base 6 for another 12 minutes. I know because I watched the clock and refused to look up. At 1:59 it backed out. No reverse lights. No headlights. Just a dark shape moving in rain. When it reached the exit, the passenger window rolled down. A pale arm came out. The hand waved at me. Then the van turned onto the highway and disappeared. I waited until the clock hit 2:05 before I looked at the mirror. It showed the lobby. Empty. The doors were locked. The rain ran down the glass. Nothing was behind me. Nothing was in the office. But on the counter directly beneath the mirror, there was a wet spot. Not a drip. A handprint. Small. Right-handed. Pressed flat. I wiped it up with paper towels and threw them into the outside trash can from the employee door without stepping out. That was the first time I thought about quitting. Not seriously. But the thought came. I imagined walking out, driving home, telling Earl to mail my last check. Then I imagined my landlord. My truck. My bank account. So I stayed. The next morning, Earl came in with 2 breakfast sandwiches from town and set one in front of me. You look worse, he said. Base 6, I said. He stopped unwrapping his sandwich. Passenger? Woman. Said her husband was sick. You open? No. Mirror? No. He nodded. Then he sat down. For a while, he chewed without speaking. I finally asked, What happens if you look? He kept chewing. Earl. He swallowed. You ever been driving at night and thought you saw headlights behind you, but when you checked your mirror, there was nothing there? Sure. Sometimes there is. I waited. That's all I'm saying. It wasn't enough. It never was with Earl. Who wrote the rules? I asked. He looked at the folded paper sticking out of my wallet. People who lasted. That include you? Some. Who didn't? He wrapped the rest of his sandwich in the paper and stood. Don't ask questions that make you feel like answers would help. Then he walked into the storage room and left me sitting there. I should tell you something about the lot, because it matters later. The parking bays were numbered 1 through 12, painted in white on the curb. Bay 6 was directly in front of the old gas pumps, at a slight angle to the office window. If you stood behind the counter, you could see Bay 6 both through the glass and on camera too. But the camera saw more than the window did. The window gave you the front of the car. The camera, mounted high under the overhang, showed the roof, hood, windshield, and both front seats. That meant the camera could tell you whether someone was driving. Most of the time. After the minivan, I started checking camera 2 every few seconds. It became a habit. Wipe counter. Check camera. Log car. Check camera. Drink coffee. Check camera. I hated how fast the rules became part of my body. By the end of my second week, I didn't have to think about locking the doors at 12:45. My hand just did it. I didn't have to remind myself not to say certain words. The sentences stopped forming in my mouth. Unattended. Passenger visible. Office occupied. The job became routine again, but a worse kind of routine. Not calm. More like waiting. The third incident was Rule 6. Headlights flash 3 times. Turn off all interior lights for 1 full minute. Keep your eyes on the floor. It happened on a Monday, which was usually the quietest night. No tourists. No truckers. No weather. Just clear sky, cold stars, and the highway lying empty in both directions. At 2:22, an old blue station wagon pulled into the lot. It didn't park in a bay. It stopped near the entrance road, angled toward the building. The headlights were on. I checked the camera. No visible driver. I wrote it down. 222, entrance lane, unattended blue wagon, headlights on. The station wagon looked familiar, though I couldn't place why at first. It had wood paneling along the sides and a luggage rack on top. One rear hubcap was missing. Then I realized it looked like my father's old Ford Country Squire. Not exactly. His had been green. But close enough that my chest tightened. My dad had driven that wagon until I was 12, when the transmission finally gave out behind a grocery store. I had spent half my childhood in the back seat with my knees up, listening to him smoke and swear at AM radio. I told myself lots of families had cars like that. Then the headlights flashed. Once. I froze. Twice. I reached for the brass key. 3 times. I moved fast. The breaker box was inside the office, beside the employee door. Earl had shown me the correct switch. Lobby panel. Not office power. Not cameras. Just interior lights and vending machines. I unlocked the box, flipped the breaker, and the rest stop went dark. Not completely. The monitor stayed on. The radio stayed on. The emergency exit sign glowed red above the back door. Outside, the station wagon's headlights poured through the front windows and lay across the floor in 2 long bars. I remembered the rule. Keep your eyes on the floor. So I looked down. The tile was old, beige, and cracked in places. I had mopped it an hour earlier. There was a dark scuff near the service drawer that never came up no matter what I used. I counted in my head. 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi. 3. At 15, something moved outside. I saw it only as a change in the light on the floor. A shadow crossed the headlight beams. Then another. Footsteps came to the lobby doors. Not loud. Just the soft rubber sound of shoes on wet concrete, except there had been no rain. The handle moved. Once. Then the other door. I kept my eyes down. The footsteps shifted left, toward the service window. A voice came through the speaker. "Nate?" My throat closed. It was my father. Not like a memory of him. Not almost him. It was his voice exactly, rough and tired, with the little whistle on the S sounds from the gap in his teeth. "Nate, open up!" I stared at the floor. My father had been dead for 14 months. Lung cancer. 80 pounds at the end. Too weak to stand. "Nate," the voice said again. "Come on, Bud. It's cold." He used to call me Bud when he wanted me to stop being angry. I counted. 27. 28. The door handle rattled harder. "Nate, I'm sorry." That almost did it. Not because I believed it was him. I don't know what I believed in that moment. But there are things you want to hear so badly that your body reaches for them before your mind can stop it. My foot moved. Just a little. The rule came back. Keep your eyes on the floor. I looked at my shoes. My black work shoes were planted behind the counter. The left lace was loose. I focused on that lace like it was the only real thing in the world. The voice changed. It became closer. Not outside now. Inside the speaker. Then inside the office. "Nathaniel." I stopped counting. The voice was behind me. Right behind my left shoulder. "Your mother's alone," it said. I bit the inside of my cheek. I tasted blood. Not much. Just enough to keep me quiet. I counted again from wherever I thought I had left off. 39. 40. 41. At 50, the voice said something that made no sense then, but does now. "You don't have to sit passenger forever." I didn't move. At 60, I reached blindly to the breaker and flipped the lights back on. The fluorescent tubes buzzed and flickered. The lobby was empty. The station wagon was gone. The entrance lane was empty. Camera 2 showed empty pavement. I checked the door. Locked. I checked the service drawer. Closed. I checked the floor where the headlight beams had been. There were wet footprints on the tile inside the lobby. They started at the locked front doors and ended at the counter. Not behind it. At it. As if someone had stood on the customer's side, waiting for me. The prints were too large to be my father's. I cleaned them before Marla arrived. I don't know why. That became a habit too. Cleaning up the evidence. It sounds insane, but at the time it felt practical. If Marla saw wet footprints inside the locked lobby, she would ask questions. If she asked questions, I would have to answer. If I answered, I might sound crazy, or worse, I might say the wrong thing out loud. So I mopped. I wiped. I threw away receipts. I learned that fear has chores. After Rule 6, I called my mother on the drive home. She answered on the 5th ring, groggy and annoyed. "Do you know what time it is?" "Yeah," I said. "Sorry." "What's wrong?" I almost told her. Instead, I asked if she was okay. She sighed. "I'm asleep, Nate." That was the plan. I just wanted to check. There was a pause. Then her voice softened. "You sound like your dad." I pulled onto the shoulder and sat there with my hazard lights on until I could breathe normally again. The 4th incident started with a missing dog. That's what I thought at first. A couple came in around 11:15, before the lockup time. They were in their 60s, driving a silver Jeep with Colorado plates. They had a little brown terrier with a red harness. The dog was nervous. It kept looking toward the highway and whining. The woman bought crackers from the machine. The man asked if there were motels nearby. I told him the closest open place was back toward town unless they wanted to risk one of the little cabins near the park road. He said they'd keep driving. At 11:27 they left. At 12:45, I locked the lobby. At 1:03, I heard scratching at the employee door. The employee door was at the side of the building, down a short hall past the storage room. It opened to the staff parking area and the dumpsters. I usually kept the deadbolt locked after midnight. The scratching came again. Light. Rapid. Like claws. I checked camera 4, the back hallway. Empty. I checked camera 3, the staff lot. My truck was there. The dumpsters were there. The side door was just out of view. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Then a whine. I thought of the terrier. I told myself the couple must have lost it and driven off without noticing. That happens. People leave things at rest stops all the time. Phones. Wallets. Once, a whole stroller, though thankfully no baby. I started down the hallway. Halfway there I stopped. There wasn't a rule about dogs. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. The whining came again. Soft and sad. I stood in the hallway, listening. Then the radio crackled behind me in the office. Highway patrol to Clearwater Rest. I went back slowly. The radio hissed. Clearwater Rest, do you have visual on a silver Jeep, Colorado plates, elderly couple, possible missing animal? Rule 4. If the radio calls you by your full name, or says it is Highway Patrol asking about a specific vehicle, answer only. Clearwater Rest, mile 184, office occupied. Then stop speaking. I stared at the radio. It had not used my name. But it had said Highway Patrol. It had asked about a specific vehicle. The scratching at the side door continued. I picked up the mic. Clearwater Rest, mile 184, office occupied. I let go. The radio clicked. The voice came back, sharper. Clearwater, we need confirmation. Did the couple leave the animal behind? I said nothing. Clearwater, this is Patrol 8. We have a report of a dog outside your building. Please check and advise. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Whine. I did not answer. The voice changed. Still official, but irritated now. Sir, this is an emergency channel. The side door handle moved. Not rattled. Moved. Slowly down. Then up. Then down again. I had locked it. I knew I had locked it. The radio said, Nathaniel, open the side door. My hand let go of the mic like it was hot. The scratching stopped. The building went quiet. Then something barked from under the counter. One short bark. Inside the office. I stumbled back so hard my chair hit the wall. There was nothing there. No dog. No animal. No open door. But on the floor under the counter was a red harness. Small. Wet. The name tag hanging from it said, Bud. I didn't touch it at first. I stood there breathing through my mouth and staring at that little harness like it might move. Then I picked it up with the trash grabber from the janitor closet and put it in a plastic bag. At sunrise, I threw it in the dumpster. Marla found it later. She came in around noon while I was at home trying to sleep and called me from the rest stop phone. Did someone lose a dog last night? She asked. My blood went cold. What? There's a harness in the office trash. Little red one. Wet as a fish. I put it in the dumpster. Well, it's not there now. I sat up in bed. What do you mean it's in the office trash? I mean it's in the office trash, hon. I didn't say anything. She sighed. You okay? Yeah. You sure? No. Yeah. She was quiet for a second. Then she said, Earl gave you the paper, didn't he? I closed my eyes. You know about that? Everybody knows about the paper. Then why didn't you say anything? Because people quit faster when you talk about it too much. I wanted to be angry at her. I was, a little. But mostly I was relieved. Someone else knew. Someone who wasn't Earl. What is this place? I asked. Marla didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was lower. You ever notice there ain't no mile marker 183? I hadn't. There's 182, she said. Then the rest stop. Then 184 eastbound. Used to be different before they moved the road. What does that mean? It means don't open the side door when something asks. That's not one of the rules. It's all one rule, Nate. Then she hung up. I checked the highway markers that night on my way in. She was right. I passed 182. Then nothing. Then the exit lane for Clearwater Rest. Then, a little past the rest stop, 184. Number 183. Maybe it had been knocked down. Maybe I missed it. Maybe the county never replaced it after a plow hit it. I told myself all of that. Then I parked beside the building, and from the dumpster came one soft whine. I did not look inside. By then, I had been working at Clearwater for 19 days. That is the part people don't understand when I try to explain why I didn't quit. It wasn't constant. It wasn't every night. Most shifts were quiet. I would go 2 or 3 nights with nothing worse than strange sounds in the plumbing or the payphone ringing once even though it hadn't been connected in years. Then a family would come in at dawn, tired and sunburned, and ask for directions. A trucker would complain about the coffee. Marla would leave passive-aggressive notes about how I folded the restroom towels. Normal things kept happening. That made the abnormal things easier to file away. Not forget. Never forget. But put somewhere behind the daily work. I started sleeping with the radio on at home. I stopped answering calls from numbers I didn't know. I stopped saying my full name out loud, even at the bank. When a cashier asked if Nathaniel was correct on my card, I said, Nate is fine. I kept going to work. I kept following the rules. Earl watched me more closely after the dog incident. He didn't say much, but he started showing up near the end of my shifts with coffee or breakfast or an excuse about checking the septic pumps. He would ask how the night went. If I said fine, he would look at the log before answering. One morning, he found an entry and frowned. 238 Bay 10, gray compact, unattended? No engine sound. He tapped the question mark. Don't do that. Don't do what? Don't leave room. I wasn't sure. Then don't write it down. That seems opposite of logging. He looked at me. Question marks are invitations. I took the pen from him and crossed it out. He nodded. Better. Why Bay 6? I asked. He closed the logbook. Because it's lined up wrong. With what? He looked toward the old gas pump island. The pump stood in a row under the dead canopy, handles locked, numbers faded, no hoses on 2 of them. Beyond them, the highway ran east and west through black pines. With where they come in, he said. That was all. I started noticing things in daylight after that. Scratches on the service drawer. Not fresh scratches. Old ones? Dozens of thin lines dug into the metal as if someone had dragged keys or fingernails across it for years. A dark stain in the concrete at base 6, long since scrubbed into nothing but a shadow. A small dent in the bottom of the office door, about the height of a shoe toe. The mirror above the counter had been removed before and put back. You could see the old screw holes around the mount. The logbooks in the cabinet went back 12 years. I read them during quiet hours. Most entries were normal. Vehicle counts, restroom problems, vandalism, notes about snow, broken lights, animal sightings. But every so often, there were lines that matched the rules. Unattended Bay 4. Left after 7 minutes. Passenger first refused. No issue. 3 flashes. Lights killed. Footsteps inside lobby. No breach. Radio used full name. Answered. Camera count off by 1. Called the doors locked until 9:05. No one explained anything. No one wrote theories. It was all work language. Procedural. That made it more frightening than panic would have. One log from 6 years earlier had a different handwriting. Small, neat, rounded letters. At 3:12 a.m., the writer had entered. Bay 6. White hatchback. Child in back seat. No driver visible. Passenger asked for phone. Refused once. Passenger said my daughter's name. Then, under that, did not look mirror. The next line was in Earl's handwriting. Employee transferred. No final count. I stared at that phrase for a long time. Transferred. Not quit. Not fired. Transferred. I asked Earl about it the next morning. He took the log from me and put it back in the cabinet. Don't read old books if you can't keep your head straight. What happened to that employee? Her name was Dana. That's not what I asked? She had a little girl. Earl. He shut the cabinet. She opened the door. I waited for more. He didn't give it. Did she die? I asked. He turned to me then. His eyes looked older than usual. I said she opened the door. The thing about fear is that it doesn't always make you run. Sometimes it makes you obedient. I became very good at my job after that. I kept the lobby spotless. I logged every car. I wrote only facts. No question marks. No guesses. No emotional words. At 12:45, I locked the doors. At 4:10, I unlocked them. At sunrise, I counted. If an unattended car came in, I wrote unattended. Never empty. Never driverless. Never alone. And for almost 2 weeks, that was enough. Then it started using my habits. At 1:18 on a Thursday, the vending machine dropped a Snickers bar by itself. I heard the clunk from the office. The lobby was empty. The machine lights flickered. The candy sat in the tray. That was my usual candy. I bought one almost every shift around 2:30, always with quarters because the bill slot didn't work right. I left it there. At 1:42, the coffee machine started brewing. The pot had been empty. I had cleaned it and switched it off. Now coffee dripped into the glass pot, dark and steady. The smell filled the office. My father drank coffee all night when I was a kid. He used to leave half-full cups everywhere, on windowsills, on the washing machine, on the roof of the car. After he died, my mother found a mug in the garage with dried coffee still in it, and cried for 20 minutes. I unplugged the machine. It kept dripping for another 9 seconds. Then stopped. At 2:03, the payphone rang. It was mounted on the wall near the restrooms, an old silver thing with the receiver chained to the side. The line had been disconnected long before I started. Earl said the contractor left it up because tourists expected a payphone in a place like that, even though none of them would know how to use it. It rang once. Then again. Then again. I didn't answer. There was no rule about the payphone. But there didn't need to be. On the 4th ring, The answering machine in the office clicked on. That was impossible because we didn't have an answering machine. A woman's recorded voice spoke through the office speaker. Please leave a message after the tone. The tone beeped. Then my own voice came out of the speaker. Not my father's. Mine. It sounded tired and close to tears. Mom, it's me, my voice said. I need you to come get me. I'm at Clearwater. I made a mistake. Please don't call Earl. Please don't tell anyone. Just come to the side door. The message ended. The payphone stopped ringing. I stood there for a full minute. Then I called my mother. She answered after 2 rings. What now? Did I call you? What? Did I leave you a message? Nate, it's 2 in the morning. I know. Did I call? No. You're sure? She exhaled. What's going on with you? I looked out at the empty lot. Nothing. That job's too much. I told you. I'm fine. You don't sound fine. I just wanted to check. She was quiet. Then she said, You always say that now. I didn't know what to say. After we hung up, I wrote in the log. 2:03, payphone rang. Did not answer. Then I crossed it out. Question marks were invitations, Earl had said. Maybe unnecessary details were too. I tore the page out. I know I shouldn't have. The log was supposed to stay complete. But I didn't want to leave my mother in it. I burned the page in the metal ashtray Earl kept outside the employee door for smokers. I kept 1 foot inside the doorway while I did it. The next morning, there was a voicemail on my phone from my mother. It had come in at 2:04 a.m. I didn't hear the phone ring. The voicemail was 11 seconds long. At first, there was only static. Then my voice whispered, Don't let me drive. I deleted it. Then I sat on the edge of my bed until noon, holding the phone in both hands. That was when I made my first real plan to quit. I wrote a text to Earl. I can finish the week, but I'm done after Sunday. I stared at it for a long time. Then I erased it. Not because I changed my mind. Because my phone suggested the next words before I typed them. I can finish the week, but I'm done after Sunday at Clearwater Rest Mile 184 office occupied. I turned the phone off and put it in the kitchen drawer. When I went in that night, Earl was there. He was standing outside by Bay 6, smoking, even though I had never seen him smoke before. The sun was low behind the trees. The air smelled like hot dust and pine sap. He watched me park. I got out and walked over. I need to ask you something, I said. He dropped the cigarette and crushed it with his boot. No, you don't. You don't know what I'm going to ask. You're going to ask if quitting fixes it. I didn't answer. He looked tired. More than usual. Sometimes, he said. Sometimes? If it hasn't learned you too well. My mouth went dry. What does that mean? It means don't feed it. I haven't. Haven't you? I got angry then. That helped for a second. I followed your rules. I know. Then don't talk like this is my fault. Earl looked toward the highway. A minivan passed without slowing. When it was gone, he said, Fault doesn't matter out here. Only what happens next. I'm quitting. He nodded. I figured. That's it. What do you want me to do? Beg? I want you to explain. No, you want me to say there's a way to understand it so you can feel safe. There isn't. I looked back at the building. The neon restroom sign buzzed in the window. Marla was inside, counting down the drawer. A tourist in a cowboy hat stood at the vending machine, trying to flatten a dollar bill on his thigh. Everything looked ordinary again. Earl said. Work your last shifts clean. Don't break routine because you think you're leaving. That's when it pushes. How many people left? Most. How many did it follow? He didn't answer. Earl. He rubbed his forehead. There was a kid before you. 22. Name was Jamie. He lasted 4 nights. Quit by text. Wouldn't come back for his check. What happened? 3 weeks later, his mother called. Asked if we'd seen him. I felt cold despite the heat. Had you? Earl looked at base 6. Camera count was off that morning. I wanted him to keep going and wanted him to stop at the same time. He said, Work clean, Nate. Then he walked to his Bronco and left. I gave notice the next morning. Not by text. In person. Earl nodded like he had expected it. Marla hugged me, which surprised me. She smelled like cigarettes and laundry soap. You did good, she said. I don't feel like I did. That's how you know. I had 5 shifts left. 5. That number became something I repeated to myself. 5 shifts. Then 4. Then 3. I didn't think about what Earl had said. Not during the day. At night, I thought about nothing else. My third to last shift was the one that changed how I understood the rules. It had snowed in the mountains that afternoon even though it was late September. Down at the rest stop, it was only rain, but cold enough that steam rose from vehicle hoods when they pulled in. By midnight the lot was empty. By 12:45 the doors were locked. At 1:11, camera 2 flickered. The image rolled once, then steadied. There was a car in bay 6. It had not pulled in on camera 1. It was just there. A dark green pickup. Older model. Square body. Montana plates. No visible driver. No visible passenger. Unattended. Bay 6. I turned off the open sign. I lowered my eyes before I could catch the mirror. I wrote. 111 Bay 6, unattended green pickup, appeared on cam. I stopped. Appeared was not a good word. Too much room in it. I crossed it out and wrote. 111 Bay 6, unattended green pickup. Then I looked at the monitor. The pickup sat facing the office. Its headlights were off. The engine was running. I could tell by the slight vibration of the hood and the exhaust drifting behind it. At 1:14, the driver's door opened. No one got out. At 1:15, the passenger door opened. Still no one. Both doors hung open. The rain tapped against them. Inside the cab, something swung from the rearview mirror. A small shape on a chain. I leaned closer to the monitor before I could stop myself. It looked like dice. No. Not dice. A little pair of boxing gloves. Red. My father had a pair like that hanging from the mirror of his old truck after the station wagon died. They were a gift from me when I was 8, bought from a quarter machine at a grocery store. He kept them there until the sun bleached them pink. I backed away from the monitor. The radio clicked. I didn't touch it. For a few seconds there was only static. Then Earl's voice came through. Nate. I stared at the radio. Nate, you there? It sounded like Earl. Not perfect, but close. Close enough that for one stupid second I reached for the mic. Then I stopped. Rule 4 only mentioned full names and highway patrol. It didn't say anything about Earl. The radio clicked again. Nate, pick up. I stood still. Nate, I'm out by the pumps. I looked at the monitor. Bay 6. Green pickup. Doors open. No Earl. Truck won't start, the voice said. I need you to come out. I looked at the rule sheet. Rule 7. Never walk between two vehicles with engines running, even if both appear empty. There was only one vehicle in the lot. 1. The pickup. Rule 7 didn't apply. That was the thought that came to me. Clear and reasonable. There is only one vehicle. Then headlights appeared on camera 1. Another car turned into the lot. It was a white hatchback. It rolled in slowly and stopped beside the pickup, not in a bay, but angled near the pump island. Its engine kept running. No visible driver. Now there were two vehicles. The space between them formed a straight path from the office door to the pumps. Earl's voice said, "Hurry up." I understood then. Not everything was trying to make me break the rule in the obvious way. Sometimes it arranged the rule around me. The danger wasn't that I might accidentally walk between two running vehicles. The danger was that it would make me believe I needed to. I stepped back from the office door. The radio clicked. Earl's voice became flatter. "Nathaniel," I said, "hurry up." Full name. Now rule 4 applied. I picked up the mic. "Clearwater Rest, mile 184, office occupied." I released the button. The office lights flickered. On the monitor, both vehicles sat with their engines running. Then the white hatchback's rear door opened. Something fell out. At first I thought it was a coat. Then it moved. A person crawled onto the wet pavement between the vehicles. Small. A child. I couldn't see a face. Just a dark hoodie, pale hands, knees dragging through puddles. The child crawled toward the office. Slowly. Like they were hurt. My body moved before my mind did. I was at the office door with my hand on the knob when the rule came back. Never walk between two vehicles with engines running, even if both appear empty. The child stopped crawling. It lifted one hand. The hand had my red boxing gloves keychain wrapped around the fingers. I had not seen those gloves in almost 20 years. The radio whispered in my father's voice. "Bud!" I let go of the door. The child put its hand down. Then it stood. Not like a hurt child. Smoothly. Too smoothly. It turned and walked back between the vehicles. The hatchback door closed. The pickup doors closed. Both vehicles backed out at the same time, moving in perfect silence, and left the lot in opposite directions. One east. One west. At sunrise, I counted the cars. Through the window, there were none. On the camera, there was one. Bay 6. The green pickup. It was sitting there on the monitor with both doors open. But through the window, the bay was empty. My first instinct was to bang the side of the monitor. That's what you do with old electronics. You hit them. You make the picture behave. Then I remembered Rule 8. At sunrise, count the cars in the lot from inside. If the number on the cameras does not match the number through the window, call Earl. Do not unlock the doors until he arrives. I called Earl. He answered on the first ring. "Count off?" "Yes." "How many?" "Window says 0. Camera says 1. "Where?" "Bay 6. "Doors?" "Open." He was quiet. Then he said, "Don't look through the window anymore." "Why?" "Because now it knows which count you trust." The line went dead. Earl arrived 20 minutes later. He parked behind the building and came in through the employee door using his key. He did not cross the front lot. He went straight to the office and looked at the monitor. The green pickup was still there on camera. Still absent through the window. Earl took a roll of duct tape from the drawer and covered camera 2. "What are you doing?" "Closing the eye." "That's not fixing it." "No." He turned off the monitor. The office felt different without the camera glow. "What happens now?" I asked. We wait. For what? For the lot to agree with itself. We sat in the office until 9:05. Marla arrived at 8, tried the front door, saw us inside, and lifted both hands like she was asking what the hell. Earl shook his head once. She went back to her car and waited. At 9:05, Earl stood and looked through the front window. Then he took the tape off camera too and turned the monitor on. The bay was empty on the screen. He unlocked the front doors. Marla came in and looked from him to me. Bad count? She asked. Earl nodded. She took off her coat. Coffee's burnt, she said, and went about her morning like nothing had happened. That was the false normal that almost broke me. Not the cars. Not the voices. Marla complaining about coffee after sitting outside for an hour because the building had somehow disagreed with itself. Customers came in. A man bought pretzels. A woman asked if the bathrooms were clean. A kid threw up near the vending machines. The world kept moving around the thing, and no one saw the seam except the people stuck working there. I went home and slept for 14 hours. When I woke up, it was dark. My phone had 6 missed calls from Cody. I called him back while sitting on the side of my bed. He answered immediately. Where have you been? Asleep. You okay? Yeah. Why? You sent me weird stuff. I felt my stomach turn. What stuff? Texts. I didn't. Well, someone did from your phone. I checked my messages. There was a thread to Cody from 3:17 a.m. I had not sent it. I had been at work, yes, but my phone had been in my locker because I stopped keeping it near me after the voicemail. The first message said, You still know Earl? Cody had replied. Yeah, why? My phone had answered. Ask him about Jamie. Cody. Who is Jamie? My phone. He got transferred. Then. I think I'm next. Then. If my truck pulls in with no one driving, don't come outside. Cody had called after that. 6 times. I deleted the messages while he was still on the phone. Nate, he said. What the hell is going on? Nothing. Don't give me that. I'm quitting. Good. I've got 2 shifts. Don't go back. I have to. No, you don't. I didn't answer. He swore under his breath. You're scaring me. That made me laugh once, not because it was funny, but because he was right and I didn't know what else to do. I'm scaring me too, I said. My second to last shift was quiet. That was worse than if something had happened. I sat in the office and waited for the pattern. No unattended cars came in. No radio calls used my name. No headlights flashed. No passenger approached the glass. At 3 a.m., a highway patrol SUV pulled into the lot, and I almost had a panic attack before a real officer got out and came to the service drawer. He was young, with a shaved head and tired eyes. Bathrooms locked? Until 4:10. He looked annoyed, then leaned closer. You got coffee? Not good coffee. That's fine. I poured him a cup and passed it through the drawer. He paid with $2 and told me to keep the change. Before he left, he glanced at the old gas pumps. Creepy place to work alone. Yeah, I said. He looked back at me. You ever get cars here with nobody in them? The cup slipped in my hand. Hot coffee spilled across my fingers. The officer watched me. What? He nodded toward the lot. Stolen cars. Drunks. People leaving vehicles and wandering off. We get calls. I didn't answer. His radio crackled at his shoulder. A dispatcher said something I couldn't make out. The officer lifted his hand in a half wave and walked back to his SUV. I watched carefully. He opened the driver's door. He got in behind the wheel. He drove away with headlights on. A real person. A real car. A real question. And still I could not make myself feel better. At sunrise, the counts matched. I drove home after Marla came in. I should have felt relief. One shift left. That was all. One more night at Clearwater Rest, and then I was done. I spent that day packing things I didn't need to pack. I cleaned my kitchen. I washed every dish. I took my father's old toolbox out of my truck and put it in the hall closet, though I couldn't have said why. At 5:30 p.m., Earl called. I almost didn't answer. Then I did. "You still coming?" he asked. "One more shift." "Good. You worried I wouldn't?" "Worried you would late." I looked out my apartment window at the street below. "What does that mean?" "Come early. Before dark." "Why?" "Because it'll know tonight is last." A cold, heavy feeling settled in my chest. I thought quitting might fix it. Might. But I have to do tonight. No. That surprised me. Earl sighed. You don't have to do anything. But if you don't come back, whatever has your shape on that camera gets to finish the shift for you. I closed my eyes. I don't understand. I know. I'm tired of you saying that. I know that too. There was a long silence. Then Earl said, Bring your paper. My rule sheet. Yes. Why? You might need to remember the first rule most. The first rule was the simplest. Keep the lobby doors locked from 12:45 a.m. until 4:10 a.m. Use the service drawer only. I got to Clearwater at 7:12 p.m., before sunset. Earl was waiting with Marla. They had both parked behind the building. The front lot was empty. Inside, the rest stop looked the same as always. Same buzzing lights. Same vending machines. Same smell of old coffee and floor cleaner. But Earl had done things to it. The mirror above the counter was covered with a towel and duct tape. Camera 2 was working but angled slightly downward, showing mostly the curb numbers instead of windshields. The payphone had been wrapped in a black trash bag. The service drawer had a new strip of tape across the inside edge with one word written in marker. Once. I looked at it. Marla saw me. For Rule 5, she said. Refuse once. Not twice. Not none. Once. My mouth was dry. Has anyone ever just stayed home on their last night? Marla looked at Earl. Earl said, Yes. And? Mather answered. Earl handed me a thermos. Coffee. Real coffee. I took it. Thanks. He pointed to the logbook. Keep it clean. No questions. No names that aren't already yours. No writing what it wants to be called. What does it want to be called? Earl's face hardened. No. That one word shut me up. Marla surprised me by taking my hand. Her fingers were cold. When the ordinary stuff happens, she said, hold on to it. Mop. Count. Restock. Don't sit and stare. I nodded. She squeezed once, then let go. At 8:03 they left. I watched from the office window as they got into their cars and drove away together, Marla following Earl's Bronco east. For a while, there was daylight. Soft, gray, safe daylight. A family came in around 9, 2 parents and 3 kids. They bought chips and used the bathrooms and asked if the road to the lake was open. I told them I didn't know. A trucker came at 10 and complained that the coffee machine was off. A teenage couple came at 11 and took pictures under the restroom sign like it was funny. At 12:20, the last normal customer left. At 12:45, I locked the lobby doors. Then I stood there with my hand on the deadbolt, and listened to the click fade into the building. One more shift, I told myself. I went to the office and opened the log. 12:45, doors locked. I cleaned the already clean counter. I restocked the gum. I counted the quarters in the change cup. At 1:02, a car pulled in. I saw the headlights on camera 1. It was my truck. My actual truck. A dented gray Chevy with primer on the passenger door, cracked bug deflector, and one fog light missing. It turned into the lot from the highway and rolled slowly past the entrance sign. My keys were in my pocket. My truck was parked behind the building. I knew that. I had driven it there. I had locked it. I had walked inside before dark. On camera 1, my truck entered the front lot. On camera 3, behind the building, my truck sat in the staff space. 2 trucks. Both mine. The one in front parked in Bay 6. Of course it did. No visible driver. No passenger. The engine kept running. I turned off the open sign. I did not look at the mirror, though it was covered. I wrote 102, Bay 6, unattended gray Chevy. My hand shook so badly the Y came out crooked. The radio clicked. I waited. No voice came. The service drawer rattled. Not from outside. From within the wall. I took one step back. The truck in Bay 6 flashed its headlights once. Then stopped. Not Rule 6. Not yet. At 1:09, my phone rang from my locker. I had turned it off. I had left it in my zipped coat pocket inside the employee locker. It rang anyway. The ringtone was my normal one. A plain old bell sound because I hate songs as ringtones. I didn't answer. It rang 7 times. Then stopped. A minute later, the office phone rang. The office phone almost never rang at night. Earl used it. Marla used it. Sometimes the contractor called about supply orders. I let it ring. On the 4th ring, the answering machine that didn't exist clicked on again. My own voice filled the office. Clearwater Rest, mile 184, office occupied. Then a pause. Then my voice said, "That isn't enough tonight." The line clicked dead. I wrote nothing. At 1:22, the truck's driver door opened. No one got out. The dome light came on. I could see the inside of the cab through the front window, not just the camera. There was something on the driver's seat. A folded paper. My folded paper. I touched my back pocket. The rules sheet was there. I pulled it out and unfolded it. 8 rules. Same creases. Same coffee stain. I looked back at the truck. The paper on the driver's seat unfolded by itself. I could not read it from inside. The radio clicked. This time, the voice was Earl's. "Nate, listen to me." I closed my eyes. It sounded right. Exactly right. "You're going to see things double," Earl's voice said. "That's normal for a last night. You need to verify." Verify. That word felt wrong. Not because Earl wouldn't use it. Because it sounded too helpful. The radio continued. "Go to the window and check your truck and back." I did not move. "If both are there, you need to choose the real one." I looked at Rule 7. Never walk between 2 vehicles with engines running, even if both appear empty. There was the truck in Bay 6, engine running. On camera 3, behind the building, my real truck sat still. Was its engine running? The camera had no sound. I could not tell. Earl's voice said, "Nate, this matters. If you choose wrong, it leaves with your truck." I stayed where I was. The voice sighed. Then it said in my father's voice, "You always did need someone else to tell you what to do." That hurt more than I expected. Not because my father had said it. Because he had. Once. Maybe more than once. The thing had learned that from somewhere. Maybe from me. Maybe from the silence I carried around. At 1:31, my mother pulled into the lot. I stopped breathing. Her white Subaru came in from the west too fast, tires hissing on the pavement. It parked crooked across Bay 2 and Bay 3. The driver's door opened. My mother got out. Not a memory. Not a dead person. My living mother. She was wearing the blue fleece jacket she kept by her kitchen door. Her hair was flattened on one side like she had been sleeping. She looked confused and scared. I grabbed the counter to steady myself. My phone had called her. Or something had. She came to the lobby doors and pulled the handle. Locked. She saw me through the glass and lifted both hands. "Nate!" Her voice was muffled but real. I moved toward the door. Then stopped. Rule 1. Keep the lobby doors locked from 12:45 a.m. until 4:10 a.m. Use the service drawer only. She pounded on the glass. "Nate, open the door!" I went to the service drawer. My legs felt numb. I pushed the speaker button. "Mom, go back to your car." She stared at me. "What?" "Go back to your car and leave." "You called me." "I didn't." "You said you were in trouble?" "I know." Her face changed. She looked past me, into the lobby. "What is that?" I did not turn around. "What?" "Behind you." The oldest trick. The simplest. Still, for a second, I almost looked. "I can't open the door," I said. "Nate, there's someone behind you." "No, there isn't." "You don't know that." "Yes," I said, though I didn't. "I do." Her eyes filled with tears. That was unfair. Everything else had been strange enough to reject. My father's voice, the dog harness, the duplicate truck. But my mother crying outside a locked door was real enough to make every rule feel cruel and stupid. She pressed her hand to the glass. "Please!" I stepped back from the service drawer. The tape said once. I had told her to leave. Once. Now I had to step back. Her expression hardened. "Nathaniel James Palmer, you open this door right now." Full name. But not the radio. Not Rule 4. My mother used my full name all the time. I stood there, shaking. She hit the glass with the side of her fist. "Open it!" The truck in Bay 6 flashed its headlights. Once. My mother turned. Twice. She looked back at me. 3 times. I ran to the breaker box. The brass key slipped in my fingers. My mother was still at the door. "Don't you dare turn away from me!" she shouted. I flipped the lobby breaker. Darkness dropped over the building. The only light came from the truck's headlights and the red exit sign. I looked at the floor. 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi. My mother screamed. It came from outside at first. Then from the lobby. Then from the office. "Nate!" I stared at my shoes. The lace was loose again. Same left shoe. "Nate, help me!" 10. 11. Something slammed against the glass. 12. The service drawer banged open. I had locked it. It banged again, metal on metal. 13. My mother sobbed. "Please, he's making me drive." I clenched my teeth. 14. The voice shifted. It was closer now. Under the counter. Beside my knees. "Bud," my father whispered. 15. Then my own voice said, You can stop this by saying it. I did not answer. What is that car? My voice asked. 16. Say what it is. 17. No one is driving it. 18. Say it. 19. I tasted blood again. 20. The voice became Earl. Log it right this time. 21. Driverless. 22. Empty. 23. My mother screamed again. 24. I almost broke. I wish I could tell you I stayed strong because I trusted the rules. I didn't. I stayed still because I was more afraid of what wanted me to move than of what might happen if I didn't. There's a difference. At 60, I turned the lights back on. The lobby was empty. My mother was gone. Her Subaru was gone. My duplicate truck was still in Bay 6. The service drawer was closed. The glass was unbroken. I grabbed the office phone and called my mother. No answer. I called again. No answer. On the third call, she picked up. Her voice was thick with sleep. Nate? I sat down on the floor behind the counter. Are you home? What? Are you home? Yes. Why? Is your car there? For God's sake, yes. What is wrong with you? I couldn't speak. She woke up more then. Nate? I'm sorry, I said. For what? I don't know. I hung up before she could ask anything else. At 2:06, the receipt printer started. I watched the paper curl out. I didn't tear it off right away. I let it hang there. The printer stopped. The slip read, 1 coffee. 1 road map. 1 driver. Total $0. Customer, Nathaniel Palmer. Under that, confirm driver? Y/N. The register screen lit up. It showed the same question. Confirm driver? Y/N. There were 2 buttons below the screen. Yes. No. We did not have that kind of register. It was an old cash drawer with a calculator taped beside it. No touch screen. No prompts. The screen waited. I looked at the truck in Bay 6. The paper on its driver's seat was gone. The driver's door remained open. The dome light glowed. The cab looked warm. Ready. The radio clicked. My own voice came through. Just press no. I laughed then. One short, ugly sound. Because I understood. Rule 2 wasn't only about speaking. It wasn't only about logging. If a car enters the lot with no visible driver, do not say out loud that it is empty. Log it as unattended, and nothing else. No visible driver did not mean no driver. It meant the place had not decided who the driver was yet. Calling it empty made room. Writing driverless made room. Pressing no made room. It had been trying since the first night to get me to confirm an absence. Not because the absence was true. Because it wanted to fill it. The question blinked. Confirm driver? Y/N. I unplugged the register. The screen stayed on. I turned off the power strip. Still on. I took the roll of receipt paper out and threw it in the trash. The printer kept printing without paper, grinding its little teeth in the dark. At 2:17, the wall clock stopped. Not one of the written rules. Still, I noticed. The second hand stuck on the 12. The minute hand on 17. The building became very still. Even the soda machines seemed to stop humming. On camera 2, my truck's headlights turned off. The lot went dark except for the overhang lights. Then the office door opened. The office door. The one behind me. The one that led to the hallway and storage room. It opened slowly inward. I had locked the employee entrance earlier, but the office door itself didn't lock. It was just a hollow wood door with a push plate. I turned. I know I shouldn't have. There was no rule saying not to. But I still wish I hadn't. The hallway beyond the office was dark. At the far end, near the employee entrance, someone stood facing away from me. A man in my work jacket. My height. My build. He had my haircut, my slouched shoulders, my black work shoes. He stood with one hand on the employee door, like he had just come in from outside. I could see the back of his head. The hallway smelled like rain. I did not speak. He turned slightly. Not enough to show his face. Just enough for me to see the corner of one eye. Then he lifted his hand. And it was my truck key. The real one. My hand went to my pocket. My keys were gone. The figure opened the employee door and stepped outside. The door closed behind him. On camera 3, behind the building, I saw him walk to my real truck. He moved like me. That was the worst part. Not stiff. Not wrong. Like me after a long shift, tired and sore and ready to go home. He opened the driver's door. He got in. The brake lights came on. At the same time, the truck and base 6 started rolling backward. Both trucks. Both engines running. Rule 7. Never walk between two vehicles with engines running, even if both appear empty. But I wasn't outside. I was in the office. The duplicate truck backed out of base 6 and turned toward the exit. My real truck backed out from behind the building, visible on camera 3. They were going to meet at the side lane. A narrow strip of pavement connected the back staff lot to the front. The two trucks rolled toward that strip from opposite directions. Between them was the employee door. Between them was the only way out of the building except the locked front doors. The radio clicked. Earl's real voice came through. "Nate." I stared at it. "Nate, answer me." I didn't touch the mic. "Nate, if you hear this, do not leave the office." The voice sounded breathless. There was engine noise behind it. "I'm 5 minutes out. Do not leave the office." That sounded real. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. The two trucks stopped on the monitors. One on camera 2. One on camera 3. Both facing the side of the building. Headlights on. The office was between them. The radio hissed. Then Earl's voice said, "Clearwater Rest, do you copy?" Rule 4. Not full name. Not highway patrol. But something in me did not trust it. I did not answer. The voice grew urgent. "Nate, I need you to confirm you're inside." Confirm. That word again. I stepped away from the radio. The wall clock still read 2:17. The register screen still blinked. Confirm driver? Y/N. Then the front lobby doors unlocked. I heard the deadbolt turn. I heard it. A heavy metal slide. The doors opened. Cold air moved through the building. The rules said keep the lobby doors locked until 4:10. But I had not unlocked them. Did that mean the rule was already broken? Did I need to lock them again? To do that, I would have to leave the office and cross the lobby. The lobby lights flickered. The open doors stood in the front glass, black beyond them. Something outside honked. Once. Not a car horn. My truck horn. Then the radio spoke in Marla's voice. "Ordinary stuff, Han, mop. Count. Restock. Don't sit and stare." I almost cried when I heard that. Not because it was comforting. Because I knew it was right. I took the mop from the corner. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely wring it out in the bucket. But I mopped the office floor. Slow strokes. Back and forth. The same pattern I used every night. I kept my eyes down. The front doors remained open. The trucks idled on both sides of the building. The register asked its question. I mopped. Something stepped into the lobby. I saw only shoes at first. Black work shoes. My shoes. They stopped on the other side of the counter. I did not look up. A hand placed something on the counter. A driver's license. Mine. The hand slid it toward the service opening. Then my voice said, from the customer side, I lost this. I kept mopping. You have to give it back. I said nothing. You can't keep someone's ID. The shoes shifted. That's illegal. I kept mopping. The voice lowered. You know why Dad never let you drive the wagon? The mop stopped. The voice continued. Because you weren't ready. Always passenger. Always watching someone else take you where you needed to go. I stared at the mop water. It was gray and smelled like bleach. My father had taught me to drive in a church parking lot when I was 15. I knew that. I remembered grinding the gears. I remembered him yelling, then laughing, then coughing so hard he had to open the door and spit. The thing was lying. But not all the way. That was how it worked. It used enough truth to make the lie fit. The shoes stepped closer. You want to go home, don't you? Yes. More than anything. Then confirm. I gripped the mop handle. You can leave, my voice said. Just say the truck is empty. I did not. At 3:17, the wall clock started again. The second hand ticked forward. The front doors slammed shut. Both trucks turned off. The register screen went dark. The driver's license was gone from the counter. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then someone knocked on the service window. I jumped. It was Earl. Real Earl, I think. He stood outside in his seed cap and flannel jacket, face pale under the overhang light. I pointed toward the lobby doors. He shook his head hard and pointed at the service drawer. Use the drawer only. Rule 1. I opened the service drawer. Only halfway. Earl crouched and spoke through the gap. You all right? No. Did you confirm anything? No. Say empty? No. Open the doors? No. He closed his eyes for half a second. Good. My keys are gone. No, they aren't. He reached into the drawer and dropped them through. They were cold and wet. Found them outside, he said. Was someone in my truck? He looked at me. Don't ask that tonight. Earl. Not tonight. Behind him, in Bay 6, my duplicate truck was gone. On camera 3, my real truck sat in the staff lot. I could see no one inside. Can I leave? I asked. Not until sunrise. It's my last night. I know. He looked over his shoulder toward the highway. Especially not until sunrise. Earl stayed outside until 4:10. He sat in his Bronco near the employee entrance with the headlights off. I could see the shape of him through camera 3, a dark lump behind the windshield. When 4:10 came, I unlocked the lobby doors. Nothing happened. No rush of cold air. No voices. No duplicate trucks. At 5:30, the first real customer came in, a fisherman with a thermos and red eyes. He used the bathroom and left without buying anything. At 6:20, a delivery van dropped off vending supplies. I signed the sheet with my initials only. At sunrise I counted. Through the window, there were 4 vehicles. The fisherman's pickup, Earl's Bronco, the delivery van, and my truck and back visible through the side angle. On the camera, there were 4. The numbers matched. I unlocked the office. Earl came in from outside. He looked like he had aged 10 years since the night before. "Done," he said. That was all. Marla arrived at 8:03. She looked at me, then at Earl. "Clean?" she asked. Earl nodded. She looked relieved. I took off my name tag and set it on the counter. Marla hugged me again. Earl shook my hand. His grip was dry and hard. "Don't stop on the way home," he said. "I won't. If you see me on the road, don't pull over." That made me pause. "What?" He held my eyes. "If you see anyone you know, don't pull over." I nodded. Then I left Clearwater Rest. I got in my truck. It started on the first try, which it almost never did. I drove east because that was the way home. The highway was pale with morning light. Pines on both sides. Mist low in the ditches. No traffic for miles. I kept both hands on the wheel. I did not turn on the radio. At mile marker 184, I passed the rest stop exit. At mile marker 182, I started shaking. There had been number 183. There still wasn't. Halfway to town, I saw Earl's Bronco on the shoulder. He stood beside it with the hood up, waving one arm. I kept driving. He shouted something as I passed. I couldn't hear it through the closed windows. In my rearview mirror, I saw him step into the road. Then I remembered what he had said. "If you see me on the road, don't pull over." I did not. A mile later, Earl called my phone. I let it ring. Then a text came in. It said, "Good." I almost laughed. Then another text came in. It said, "You should have stopped." I turned the phone off and threw it onto the passenger floor. I made it home. For 3 weeks, nothing happened. I found another job unloading freight at a hardware store. It paid less, but it was days. I slept at night again. Not well, but enough. I stopped talking to Earl. Not because I was angry. Because I didn't know how to have a normal conversation with someone after that. Marla called once and left a message saying I had forgotten a jacket. I didn't call back. Cody asked about the rest stop a few times. I told him I quit because the hours were bad. He didn't believe me, but he let it go. My mother said I sounded better. I wanted that to be true. Then, on a Sunday night in late October, I woke up at 2:17 a.m. My room was dark. My phone was off on the nightstand. Outside my apartment window, a car idled. I live on the second floor, above a laundromat. My bedroom window faces the back alley, where tenants park under a motion light that only works when it wants to. The light was on. A pale sedan sat in the alley below. Long hood. Square rear. No visible driver. I did not say anything. I got out of bed and stood back from the window. The sedan flashed its headlights once. Then twice. I turned away before the third. I sat on the floor and looked at my carpet for 1 full minute. When I looked again, the car was gone. The next morning, I drove to Clearwater Rest. I don't know why. Maybe to warn Earl. Maybe to ask what it meant. Maybe because some part of me already knew. The rest stop was open. A woman I didn't recognize stood behind the counter. Younger than me, maybe mid-20s, with red hair tied back and a nervous smile. Earl was not there. Marla was not there. The woman asked if I needed anything. I looked at the mirror above the counter. It was uncovered. "Where's Earl?" I asked. She blinked. "Who?" "Earl. The manager." She frowned. "I don't know an Earl." I thought I had misheard her. "What about Marla?" She shook her head. "I just started last week." Behind her, on the counter beside the register, was a folded sheet of paper. My mouth went dry. "Who hired you?" I asked. She looked toward the office door. "State contractor. Mostly online. There was a guy who trained me for one night, but I don't remember his name." "What did he look like?" She shrugged. "Older. Hat. Quiet." I looked at the paper again. She noticed. "Oh," she said. "Yeah. He gave me these weird night rules." I wanted to tell her to quit. I wanted to tell her not to read them, not to stay, not to learn the words the way I had. But a customer came out of the bathroom then, and the soda machine dropped a can, and the whole place looked normal in the flat morning light. The woman smiled politely. "Do you work for the contractor?" "No," I said. I stepped back from the counter. "No, I don't." As I turned to leave, I saw the logbook open beside the register. The top entry was from the night before. 206, Bay 3, unattended sedan, pale, engine running. Under that, in careful handwriting, she had written, "Receipt printed name, Nathaniel Palmer." I left without saying another word. That was 6 months ago. I don't work at Clearwater anymore. At least I don't think I do. Most nights, I sleep at home. I go to my day job. I buy groceries. I call my mother on Sundays. I live like a person who got away. But sometimes I wake up before dawn with the smell of burnt coffee in my room. Sometimes my shoes are wet by the door. Sometimes there are receipts in my pockets that I don't remember taking. They all say the same thing. 1 coffee. 1 road map. 1 driver. Total $0. Confirmed driver? Y/N. I keep throwing them away. They keep coming back. Last week, Cody sent me a picture from the highway. He had driven past Clearwater on his way to a job near the park. The photo was blurry, taken through his windshield, but I could see the rest stop sign in the front parking bays. There was a gray Chevy parked in Bay 6. My gray Chevy. Except mine was parked outside my apartment when he sent it. In the picture, the driver's door was open. No one was behind the wheel. Cody texted, "Isn't that your truck?" I didn't answer. A minute later, he sent another message. It said, "Nate, who's sitting in the passenger seat?" I deleted the thread. I haven't driven at night since. I don't look in rearview mirrors after midnight. And whenever I pass a car on the shoulder with its headlights off, I keep my mouth shut, no matter how empty it looks. Because the worst part is not that some cars have no drivers. The worst part is that some of them are still waiting to be assigned one.